I never thought I'd see Selena like this. Not on a red carpet, not on Instagram, not in the polished videos that everyone thought they knew, but tonight in a small, dimly lit studio on the outskirts of Los Angeles. She stepped inside with a presence that made the walls hold their breath. Black leather jacket, sunglasses at night, and a confidence that didn't ask for attention. It demanded it. No one in the room had expected her to show up like this. Not the producers hunched over mixing boards. Not the songwriters casually scribbling lyrics on scraps of paper. Not even her manager, who looked as if he'd swallowed a live frog. Selena's energy was magnetic, sharp, electric. It made everyone suddenly aware of how ordinary they felt. "I'm done hiding," she said, her voice low but unwavering. "And I'm done letting them tell my story." No one asked who they were, but everyone understood. For years, the media, the critics, the fans, they'd all built a version of Selena that suited them. That glittering, perfectly curated pop star. The smiling girl from Disney. The global icon who seemed untouchable. But that Selena, that version was safe, controlled, and most importantly, not real. Tonight, it was different. Tonight, she was raw, deliberate, dangerous in the quietest way. She opened her notebook, flipping to a page filled with lines that felt more like confessions than lyrics. Thoughts about control, about fear, about being watched even when she was alone. She hummed a melody under her breath. Soft at first, then building, trembling like it carried a secret. The room leaned in. Even the most skeptical producer couldn't look away. "I want this track to feel like the moment you realize the world doesn't own you anymore," she said, not to anyone in particular, but to the room itself. It wasn't just a creative direction. It was a challenge, a test, a statement. And everyone could feel it. The night stretched on, instruments were tuned, words were rewritten, beats twisted and bent into shapes no one had expected. And through it all, Selena watched, observed every pause, every glance, every flicker, hesitation, or inspiration. By midnight, the track wasn't just music. It was a manifesto, a declaration that the Selena Gomez the world thought it knew was gone. She was someone else now, and even she wasn't entirely sure who that someone was. And then, as she left the studio, the first strange message appeared on her phone. No number, no name, just a line. "You're ready to understand now." Selena paused. The city breathed around her, unaware of what had just begun. But she knew, deep down, that her life, her story, was about to change forever. Selena walked through the quiet streets of Los Angeles, her phone buzzing again, though no number appeared. The message was simple. "Do you see now?" Her brow furrowed. She had no idea who was sending these notes, but she felt the weight of them like a presence in the room. Every small sound, the distant siren, the soft hum of an air conditioner, the click of her own heels, suddenly seemed amplified, meaningful. The next day, she arrived at her studio early, expecting ordinary work. But nothing felt ordinary anymore. Her notes had been rearranged overnight, lyrics rewritten, beats reordered, not by anyone in her team. And on her desk, a new folder had appeared. No label, just a single line scrawled on top. "You're learning. Keep watching." Selena opened it carefully. Inside were photographs, angles of her apartment, snapshots from her daily routines, even close-ups of objects only she knew about. Heart pounding. She realized someone had been observing her, following her actions, mapping her life with terrifying precision. Yet there was something more. Hidden between the images were sketches and notes, faintly suggesting choices she could make, paths, decisions, possibilities. Whoever was behind this wasn't trying to scare her, not completely. They were testing her, training her. As the days went by, small patterns emerged. Messages arrived at precise moments. A text when she hesitated, a folded note under a coffee mug when she doubted herself. Each event seemed random on its own, but together they formed a roadmap she was meant to follow. She began to notice the subtle ways the world responded to her. A studio door that had always been locked now opened at her touch. A producer who had been difficult for weeks suddenly smiled for no reason. Even her own instincts sharpened. She could predict reactions, anticipate movements, feel the weight of attention she hadn't noticed before. And then came the first real test. A key appeared in her mailbox, metal, cold, unmarked, with a note. Everything begins here. It led her to a warehouse she'd never seen before, in a part of the city that felt abandoned. Inside, a single laptop glowed in the dark, open to a file labeled Lesson 1. When she pressed play, a voice filled the room. Calm, familiar in tone, yet impossible to place. You think the world knows your story. It doesn't. It only guesses. Now you will learn to control it yourself. Selena froze. This wasn't music anymore. This was a game, and she was in it. Every note she played, every lyric she wrote, every choice she made, someone had been measuring it all, guiding her, testing her limits. She realized, with a thrill and a chill running down her spine, that the person or force behind this was teaching her something far beyond performance. They were teaching her how to survive in a world that had always tried to define her. And Selena knew, even as her pulse quickened, that she wouldn't just play the game, she would master it. Selena sat alone in the dim glow of the warehouse, the folder open in front of her. Every name, every note, every instruction was laid out like a puzzle she had to solve. Her heart hammered in her chest. This wasn't just music anymore. It was strategy, observation, survival. Her phone buzzed again. Another message, simple, cold, and precise. You are ready for the real test. She felt a shiver run down her spine. Her instincts screamed that this wasn't optional. She had no choice but to follow the path that had been set, even though she didn't know who was guiding her or why. Hours passed. The warehouse lights flickered. She played chords, hummed melodies, scribbled lyrics, all while noticing patterns she hadn't before. The timing of each note, the subtle response of the instruments, the energy shift in the room. She realized that someone or something was not just watching her. They were shaping her reactions, teaching her how to anticipate, to control, to lead. A shadow moved at the far end of the room. Selena froze. The figure stepped into the light. Tall, lean, hoodie pulled low, face hidden. Calm, deliberate. You're learning faster than expected, the voice said. But now it matters. Can you handle the weight of seeing everything clearly? Selena's fingers trembled over the keys. Why me? She asked. Her voice was steady, but her chest tightened. Because you can, the figure replied. You were always meant to. The world tried to define you. Now it's time for you to define yourself and everyone around you. Every word settled like a stone in her mind. She realized the truth. This wasn't about fame. It wasn't about music. It was about control, influence, awareness. And the more she understood, the heavier the responsibility felt. Her hands moved on the guitar almost automatically, as if the music itself carried instructions. Each chord, each note, each silence built her awareness, sharpened her intuition. Fear mixed with exhilaration. Confusion transformed into clarity. She could feel the unseen currents in the room, the subtle forces guiding her every decision. Hours later, the figure stepped back into the shadows. Lesson complete, it said. The world is ready, or at least you are. Selena stood, breath shallow but eyes burning with a new fire. She understood now. She wasn't a pawn anymore. She was the player. She was the observer. She was the author of her reality. Outside, Los Angeles slept, unaware. But inside her, a revolution had begun. Every choice, every step, every word from now on would be hers. And the knowledge that someone had tested her, guided her, shaped her, made her stronger, sharper, unstoppable. For the first time, she felt something she hadn't in years. Completely alive. The city outside moved as if nothing had changed. Cars honked. Neon signs flickered. The distant hum of Los Angeles never stopped. But inside Selena's apartment, everything had shifted. She sat at her desk, the folder now neatly organized, every note and sketch aligned. The lessons, the tests, the hidden observations, they had all led to this moment. Her phone buzzed one last time. A single message appeared. It's time. She stared at it for a long moment. Time for what? She didn't need an answer. Deep inside, she already knew this was a moment she would step fully into her story, into her life, unbound from expectations, from definitions, from anyone else's control. Selena picked up her notebook and pen. Every word she wrote carried weight, intention, power. This wasn't just lyrics or melodies anymore. It was strategy, influence, declaration. Each chord she strummed on her guitar, each word she whispered aloud, shaped not only her music, but her presence, her reality. For years, the world had tried to script her life. The perfect pop star, the polished image, the persona everyone wanted. Tonight, she erased all of it. Every choice she made, every note she played, every silence she allowed was hers and hers alone. She smiled softly, a calm, confident smile. The fear that had once driven her was gone, replaced with focus and clarity. She wasn't running anymore. She wasn't hiding. She was present, aware, unstoppable. The folder, the messages, the unseen guidance. They had served their purpose. She understood now. Control wasn't taken. It was earned, and she had earned it. Leaning back, Selena whispered to herself, almost like a vow, I am no one's story but my own. Outside, the city continued unaware. Somewhere in the shadows, a presence paused, silent, acknowledging. The lessons were complete. The tests were over. And Selena? She was only just beginning.